cardamom sourcing. See the picture on the left? That's the cardamom plant, and the cardamom grows low to the ground, and it blossoms. So you can see a little blossom there, and there's one blossom per cardamom pod or seed. We learned all different kinds of things about the insects that threaten cardamom and best practices for farming cardamom and all different kinds of things that it's not really, those details aren't as pertinent to this conversation. But if you look at the 3 different pods, seed pods there, what we really were trying to look for when we were harvesting the cardamom is we want a mature seed. We want a seed that's mature enough, because if it's not mature, then it doesn't yield the right product, basically. And it was almost like, I don't know if you've ever picked, probably most people in Washington have picked like blackberries or raspberries or something, and you could tell if it was ready to come off if it came off easily. So it's very similar to like picking a blackberry or a raspberry or something. If it was hard to pull, then you would let it go. You wouldn't pull it off. So number 3 is actually the one in the picture that is the most ready to harvest, because you can see the seeds are black. And those little seeds in there, we could open up the cardamom pods and you could put the seed in and you could bite the little black seed, and it was like having a cardamom beadlet. It was just this massive burst. So harvesting, this was on the left in the pinkish shirt. This is Vicente, and he has a large number of cardamom plants out there. He's a farmer, and you can see he has a machete in his hand. And he was telling us all about his plants and how to harvest. He was teaching us how to harvest. And you can see there on the right, he's bent down, because we were on hills. Like these were hills. This wasn't flat land. And so they're bent over harvesting like that for a long time. It is back-breaking work. And so 100 pounds of cardamom takes 3 men half of a day to harvest. And the current rate is 4 to 8 quetzales, which is about 50 cents to $1 per pound for the cardamom. So this just shows a little bit of kind of the walk into the community where the cardamom was purchased. At the bottom, you can see a guy walking up the hill. He had just crossed the bridge and was walking up the hill with a bag of cardamom on his back. And when the bags are full, they're about, some of them were up to 170, 180 pounds. So they bring them from out of the hills and they walk them into the community, as I said, on Tuesdays and Fridays, and they bring them into town. So we got to that point. Now, I guess they said that no one had ever been able to be a part of this process, but because of how long it took us to do the hike, we ended up like kind of going through town to go back to Sicabe at the same time that the buying of the cardamom was supposed to happen. So you can see on the left here, there's a bunch of people sitting around in this little village with their bags of cardamom, and they're waiting for the buyers to show up. They asked us, our trip leaders asked us, do you guys want to stick around to watch the buying process and to see it happen? You know, our truck, the choice Doterra truck that's coming to buy is on its way, so it should be here really soon. Do you guys want to stick around and see the process? Of course, we were like, yes, we're starving, but we weren't going to turn down that opportunity. So we said, yeah, we want to stick around. Well, we waited and we waited and we waited, and it went from light, the sky went from light to dark, and we're wondering what is going on. And what had happened was the buyers, there's some buyers other than Choice Doterra, blocked the road into the community. We were here, and our truck was over here blocked. And because someone else had said, oh, our truck is stuck in the road, it's stuck in the mud, we can't move it, and it was another buyer, knowing that the majority of the people in the community are waiting to buy from Doterra Choice. They're waiting to buy from us because the people in the community trust us. The people in the community have seen the help that we provided them. They have received different trainings to improve their yield. They have received additional help from the people within the Choice community. They trust that they're going to get a fair price when they work with us. And so they are waiting for us to show up, even though there were other buyers sitting there in the village. And what this person blocking the road, their idea was, if I can block the road long enough, the people will start to think that the Doterra is not coming, and they will just sell to me for whatever price I will offer them. So O'Hare hears that this is happening. He gets in the car. He goes up there. He took some people with him, and he basically said, here's the deal. I've got a truck already in the village. I used it to bring people into the village, but my people will walk out of the village. We are buying this cardamom tonight, whether you let our truck through or not. So we're here. We'll help you move your truck out of the road if you're stuck, but we're buying this cardamom. You're not going to stop us from doing that. So you can let us do it one way, or we'll do it another. So he went up, but this is why we were waiting so long, because this conflict was happening up the road. Eventually our truck got through, and the people waited. They waited forever, and they all just sat and came one by one to bring their bags. Some bags were 60 pounds, some bags were 170, 180 pounds. And I was standing in the back of the truck in the picture on the right, looking down at the scale. And they would come, they'd haul these bags on their back, and then they'd hook them up to the scale. And then the Doterra choice guy would write down their name and would write down the weight of their bag. And so they did this process of weighing all the bags. And Doterra, actually, we were offering 8 quetzales per pound, and there were other buyers that were offering 9 or 8.25, or they were offering more. But the people know that those buyers are going to say, oh, your bag has mud on it, so I'm going to take off 5 pounds. Or they rig their scales so their scales don't show the actual weight of their bag. And so they know that even though these other people are advertising higher prices, that they're going to be cheated if they go to those people, and that they're going to get fair payment and actual payment that night if they come work with us. So we got to watch them one by one bring their bags to be weighed. And then after all the bags are weighed, the cardamom bags are opened and checked for quality. And then the payment happens immediately. So we bought a little over $13,000 worth of cardamom that night. They would come up to the truck. They would say their name. Our people would say, this is the number, the weight that I have for you. And they'd say, yes, that's the weight that I saw on the scale. They'd say, okay, this is how much money we owe you. They would count the money out for them. They'd say, okay, here's the money. Do you want to count it? And most people wouldn't even count it again. They would just say, thank you. And they would walk away. And we even saw one man immediately go and buy food for his family and for his other farmer partners. After he received the money for the cardamom right in that moment. So it was an incredibly powerful process to see all of this happen and to see what these people were willing to do to work with us out of gratitude and out of understanding for the benefit that we provide them. We were so hungry and so muddy and so tired, but it was probably an hour. And once O'Hare figured it out, it was solved. So then all the bags of cardamom have to be dried within a certain period of time. They have to get into the dryers. And you can see to the right, just barely, you can see someone's arm and their hand leaning over into that vat. So you can see how huge these vats are. And behind the vat is basically like a fire, and a massive fan is underneath the bottom of the vat, and the heat, it blows warm air up through the bottom underneath the cardamom. And they did 50 100-pound bags per dryer, and there were 2 dryers in this room, the facility, and the noise of these fans was unbelievable. It was so loud. You could hardly hear talking. Like you had to yell just to hear each other talk. These people are in here for 36 hours straight. 3-hour shifts they take, and they have to check the temperature of the cardamom every 5 minutes. And if it's too hot, they open vents. If it's too cold, they put a log on the fire. Every 5 minutes, they're checking the temperature. And this goes on, and then they rotate the cardamom. They do like an entire kind of flip of the cardamom so that it all dries evenly. And after the cardamom is dried, it loses 1/5 of its weight. So it gets a lot lighter after that process. And it's referred to as pergamino once it's dried. After the drying process, once it was all dried, we had the privilege to do, and I want to tell you guys that 40 degrees Celsius is actually really, really hot. And they do this day and night for 36 hours. And so when we were in there, it was loud and noisy, and it was hot. It was so hot in there. So once they turned the fans off, it actually was really nice because we could hear each other. But you can see me there on the left. We take our shoes off, and they put the equivalent of like a pillowcase, and they wrap it around your feet. And we would get into these vats, and you can see how tall they are. The women who are putting the pillowcase on my feet are standing up. So I'm up sitting on top of the vat. They're putting it on my feet, and then we get into the vats and we shovel the cardamom into bags. And then the bags are taken and they're weighed, so they can take the weight prior to drying and then the weight after drying. And then the bags are carried after they're weighed. You can see in the middle picture, there's someone carrying kind of up the stairs. He's handing off a bag of cardamom, and it's dumped into this chute. And the cardamom goes down through the chute and onto this little sorting table. And the 4 women there were helping kind of push the cardamom over this sorting or sifting process area of the table. And then it's pushed into bags. And once a bag was full, it was absolutely critical that we put our hands and stopped the cardamom. They did not want one little pod wasted. So we had to stop and hold it, and then they'd bring another bag in, and then we'd let it go through again. And then after it's bagged again into new bags, then they weigh it again, and then it's tracked. That way, they go through the entire process. Now, after all the cardamom was bagged and then sorted and put in bags again, then we swept the floor, and then we pulled out the cardamom pods from what was on the ground. Each cardamom pod was so precious to them and so important to them that we were sorting through the dirt and all the debris that was on the ground from that process, pulling cardamom pods out one by one. Then the cardamom bags were sealed up and ready to go to the distiller.